Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about something I've just seen in The Guardian, which is fracking row. Treasury showing shambolic conflict of interest. Director of Third Energy, which wants to frack in North Yorkshire, is Conservative donor. Now I do want to say before we go any further, I am against having corporate money in politics, so I'd have all corporate donors out. But we'll go through this story anyway. So, campaigners have accused the Treasury of allowing the appearance of a conflict of interest over its examination of an energy company at the forefront of fracking in the UK. Third Energy's financial health is being looked at by the Treasury body, the Infrastructure and Projects Authority, the IPA, whose findings will inform whether the government gives the firm a green light. Which later in the article, you'll see that they do actually pass the test, so they should be given the green light. But Third Energy's newest director, Conservative Party peer and donor Jitesh Gláeddyv, I've butchered that name, I apologise, is also a non-executive director at another Treasury body, UK Government Investments. One of UK Government Investments' role is to provide advice to the government on dealing with financially distressed businesses. Now this basically implies to me that investment from the UK government needs to be spent wisely, and basically people are complaining because one of the people in charge of the government investments is also in charge, well, one of the directors of this company that wants to frack in North Yorkshire. So they're bringing up a fair point really, which they are going to go through in this article right now. Rose Dickinson of Friends of the Earth campaigner, oh geez, they have such bad names, said this seems a conflict of interest. Not only that, it looks fairly shambolic. It's things like this that make the industry hard for people to trust. It's another reason why government should say no to fracking. It's not wanted and it's bad for the environment. Neither of those are to do with what we're talking about here, but to say it's not wanted, according to this poll over the years from 2014, support has fallen for fracking and opposition has risen. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's from the British Environmental something. It's by a UK government institution, so I'm going to take this as a fairly representative poll, which is fine because it's still like 50% of people are in the neither support or oppose, so I guess it's a true statement that she's saying it's not wanted, but I can bet if you ask those same people if they'd rather have cheaper gas prices, they'd all say yes, but still be against fracking. Like they don't think of the wider implications of these things. They just go, fracking can harm the environment. Well, it can, but as I've gone through in previous videos, we have regulations to make sure we avoid it as much as possible. But they'll never listen to that. They're mentalists, trust me. Third Energy, backed by Barclays, is in the spotlight because it is poised to be the first company to frack in the UK for 7 years. It intends to frack a site in North Yorkshire, but is awaiting consent from the business secretary, Greg Clark. Last month, Clark said the company had passed the technical tests, but scolded it for having overdue accounts. The minister asked the IPA to assess Third's financial resilience and ability to fund cleanup costs. Now, this is actually probably fair, because if you start fracking, don't make any money off the fracking, and then the regulations which are put in place to stop the environment going terrible, like these regulations cost money. So I guess this is actually quite fair, because you do need like backup funds to pay for the cleanup costs, which I think should be down to the business. I'm totally on board with that. But following Clark's intervention, Third Energy published its accounts, which were 4 months overdue. They revealed that Third Energy's UK Gas Limited made a 3.4 million loss for 2016, which is slightly down on the 3.85 million loss in 2015. But the financial health of the firm is opaque, as its ultimate parent company, Third Energy Holdings, is based in the Cayman Islands. The accounts show that the parent company is owed 44.7 million. It's sentences like this that really annoy me in The Guardian, because that's not clear to me who owes Third Energy Holdings the 44.7 million. I'm assuming it's Third Energy UK Gas Limited that owe Third Energy Holdings 44.7 million. And if that's the case, I'm not going to pay it off with the 3.4 million or the 3.85 million. The only way they're going to get a green light on this financial problem is if they get a loan from Barclays, which I'd be surprised if they didn't actually do, because I can see fracking being a real boon to any company that wants to frack, and that I think they should give them enough to also cover costs of cleanup should it be required. So the government said the Infrastructure and Projects Authority and UK government investments are two completely separate bodies with separate governance structures. There is no basis to suggest there is a conflict of interest here. So they would have already got a green light if there was a conflict of interest, because I can't remember the guy's name and I can't pronounce it anyway. But the person who's one of the directors of, what was it, Third Energy Holdings, he doesn't have any say whether to give fracking the green light or not. He's actually fighting to get a green light and has no power to actually give a green light to fracking. So this is why the government says there's no basis to suggest a conflict of interest, which makes sense to me anyway. And Third Energy said, as a member of the House of Lords, Lord Gláeddyv has registered all his business interests, including Third Energy. There is complete transparency and no question of any conflicts of interest here. I think, although he's transparent about his businesses, I don't think that clears him of all conflicts of interest. I think it does in this case, but to be fair, I don't think they are saying, oh, look, he's completely transparent, therefore there is no conflict of interest. I'm saying, with the transparency of his business practices that we can see, there is no way that this can be a conflict of interest, which I totally agree with. So the article finishes basically saying that there is a group in the North Yorkshire village of Kirby Mispurton who are opposing Third Energy from trying to frack, and these are the type of people that are trying to say that there's conflict of interest here, when I guess you could say there is, but from what we've read here, the government's saying there isn't, Third Energy saying there isn't, but both of those institutions would obviously say there isn't. But even from the evidence, I think you can conclude that there isn't. But the Guardian sends me to this article: meet the Yorkshire villagers fighting for frackers, documenting fracking protests in Kirby Mispurton. Photographer Gary Carlton found a surprising mix of people uniting to protect Britain's countryside. And I think it's worth going through this just to see the type of people that are willing to do anything to stop energy progress. So let's go through it. The first half of the article is essentially just a bit of a background story to fracking and everything, but you can read it if you want, but there's just one paragraph that I want to go through that I think really does set the stage for these type of people. So I'm in the company of observer photographer Gary Carlton, who has been documenting events here for 6 months. Carlton, who lived 8 miles away, has pictures of protesters boarding lorries, lying down at the gates to sites, and facing off against battalions of police. He has also captured more intimate moments, the protesters running through drills, chatting, sleeping, and a key activity on the freezing day I visit, simply keeping warm as they wait for the next chapter of the fracking saga to unfold. Now, people always go on about the far left, how they're LARPing revolutionaries, and the far right are LARPing intellectuals. Well, these people are also, they're not really LARPing revolutionaries, they're like LARPing civil rights activists, but for the civil rights of the environment, it seems. But they don't seem to really understand how fracking actually affects the environment and how to actually stop it. And we've got people in the British Geological Survey who basically know the regulations they have to put in to stop it, but they're breaking laws here, like boarding lorries. Like, I don't think that's legal. Lying down at the gates to site and facing off against battalions of police. Like, they just sound They just sound like stupid things to do. Like, they'll say, oh, it's peaceful, but, like, alright, lying down at the gates, right, that's fair enough, that's peaceful, but they're gonna have to move, and then facing off against battalions of police, well, that makes it sound a bit less peaceful to me. But, well, I think we should go into the individuals of this, because, oh, some of them are amazing. So first we have Eddie Thornton, 34. Since joining the camp, I've been arrested 7 times. Jesus. Grew up 4 miles away in Pickering. He worked as an assistant producer at the BBC and was working as a videographer at a Buddhist monastery in France before joining the camp in December 2016. These aren't normal people, really, are they? I'd been a part of a local anti-fracking movement for a few years, but I knew that my real role would begin when I got to the direct action stage. So when my community lost its case at the High Court in December 2016, I asked permission for the monks to come home. This is my first proper campaign since joining the camp. I've been arrested 7 times. The most prominent was when I built a tower out of pallets so we could observe police conduct against protesters at the fracking site. I climbed the tower and stayed in it overnight so I could live stream it in the morning. I was arrested for obstructing a police officer, though I wasn't obstructing anything. Now the conditions of my bail prevent me from going near the fracking site. They've used the arrest to curtail my right to protest. Now, the way he phrases it makes it sound like police abuse of power. However, knowing the type of people that these people are, I'm going to take his story with a pinch of salt, but I don't have time to actually find out what happened to him. But, you know, I'll take his word for it for now. Alright, we'll make you a victim of the police just for argument's sake. It's really difficult living a life of mud and conflict. Not everybody in my community supports me. Some people don't understand what we're doing and why. When they see me, I see fear in their eyes. Jesus. I've never had someone frightened of me before, and that's really tough to get over. So you're not used to people being fearful of you. You've been arrested 7 times, and this thing with the pallet where you're saying you did nothing wrong. You didn't do nothing, right? And people are fearful of you. I'm kind of building this picture that maybe you're not the nice guy you think you are, because you, from what I can see here, you definitely think you're some type of nice guy. But no, I think you can fly off the handle a bit if people are fearful of you, because why else would people be fearful of you? I don't get it. Next we have Jim Brooks, 81. I'm absolutely certain that our efforts here will succeed. He just seems like a nice old guy, to be fair. Grew up in Arkansas. Oh crap, he's American. Served in the US Navy for 20 years. When worked as a communications technician with Bendix and ITT. With his wife, Jackie, who is below. He's been serving refreshments at the protest site since September. He just seems like a nice old guy there. I've never done anything like this before. Due to my military background, getting involved in protests was not permissible. Jackie and I felt there was something we could do here. Not actually getting involved in the activity, but making sure that anyone and everyone would be able to have a cup of tea, a biscuit, whatever it may be. It was God-inspired, to be honest. Because of that, our operations have grown from a single table to a caravan. Nice guys, really. Like, I don't have a bad word to say about them. They just seem like genuinely nice people. A lot of our food here is donated. We get homemade soup, pastries and pies. Donations go into a bucket and all proceeds go towards the camp. We get reimbursed for what we spend, but that's it. There's no paycheck. I'm absolutely certain that our efforts here will succeed. There's too much equipment going out and not enough coming in. But if Third Energy leaves, there's a danger that some other company might try and take over the site. So we're going to stick around for a little while after they close this down to see what happens. Again, this guy just seems really nice. Just a really big, friendly Santa Claus. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about him. Just, he's not really getting involved. He's just feeding the people that are getting involved, and that's totally fine. I wouldn't be against that in any way. Good guy. I like him. Next we have Michelle Easton, 37. The reward is being able to say the next generation, we've tried. She looks like someone who's doing this purely for her own moral good. which, alright, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Grew up in Dorset, she studied countryside management and became a press officer with the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group before joining the protest camp in August 2017. I'd only been to one protest before coming here, a CND protest at Faz Lane when I was 19. Last July, I went to visit Preston New Road, another fracking site near Blackpool, and met a couple of people from this camp. That's when I started looking into the impacts of fracking. In August, I left everything behind and moved here full time. Shouldn't you already have gone through the impacts of fracking with countryside management? I mean, it's quite a big issue. I don't know. It's been a massive sacrifice leaving my job, my house, and all my friends to come and live in the coalfield in Yorkshire. I didn't know anyone, but the camp and the local community have been incredibly welcoming. I'm tired a lot of the time, but it makes you feel alive to do something you believe in. To be honest, I feel quite bad for her after that sentence, because in the most sympathetic way, it sounds like she's having a midlife crisis in her mid-30s. I mean, by her saying, I've left... She's not said she's left a family, has she? So, mid-30s, probably... I don't know if she's single, but she hasn't said she's left a partner, so her partner's either gone with her. But no, she says she doesn't know anyone. No, this is what I mean. She's just alone. She had to leave a job, house, and friends, but no family. That's why I feel quite bad for her. She just doesn't seem to have anything better to do. So I don't think I'm going to go too harsh on her, to be honest. I'm part of the media team here. I'm using my scientific training to check sources and make sure everything we put out is as accurate as possible. Does she mean from countryside management? That's a science degree, Jesus Christ. I was arrested once when 4 of us dressed up as Batgirls and did a lock-on to draw attention to a bat roost right next to the site. The environmental impact assessment was woefully inadequate. First Energy hadn't even begun to identify the protected species in the immediate area. A bat's a protected species? Didn't think there were. I am running out of money now, but I'll keep going for as long as I can. For me, the reward is to take a stand against a really dangerous and destructive industry, and to be able to say to the next generation we've tried. It's dangerous and destructive in America. I've been through it's in my previous videos. Basically, it's fine in the UK. But yeah, this woman, I don't want to go too harsh on her. She seems to just be in a midlife crisis in the most sympathetic way I can say that possible. I really don't want to be patronising, but I mean, she seems alright, just nothing better to do at the time. So she does this, which more power to her, I think, until she appears to have run out of money. Ah, well. The next person is Helen Chunso, 41. When you see democracy failing people, then it's time to put your boots on the ground. I don't see how this is a problem with democracy. Lives in West Yorkshire, 90 minutes from Kirby Miss Purton. She's been campaigning against fracking since 2013, when she joined the protest at Barton Moss near Manchester. I used to work in health and safety regulation, so when I started looking at fracking, I had an appropriate lens with which to examine the industry. I was really concerned by what I found. Since then, I've been working to expose the fact that fracking industry cannot and will never operate safely. Liar! Nor will it stick within its own operating framework. It will if they get freaking fined for it. Whenever I've examined any permit or license, I've discovered that the rules and goalposts are changing all the time. The industry is not being regulated, it's not safe. That's a paragraph of lies, to be quite honest. When I saw that Kirby Miss Purton was running the campaign, I decided to get involved. At Barton Moss, I was a breastfeeding mother, so getting arrested was not on the menu. But as my children have grown older, I became more interested in the idea of actually blockading. I was not afraid of getting arrested. When you see democracy failing people, that's time to put your foot on the ground. Sorry for my fuck up in words there. Complete mentalist, this one, to be honest. Communities may be coordinated into thinking they're powerless, but when something like this comes along, it gives people the opportunity to engage in local democracy and realise that there is actually something they can do to make a change. If people didn't want fracking, they wouldn't vote Tories. I'm just saying. We've had Tories for, what, the last 2 elections? If they don't want fracking, they can choose any other party. Every single other one is against it. So if democracy isn't failing people, this is exactly what people have voted for. You're a revolutionary. This is a LARPing revolutionary. This one is a bit mental. Next we have wife of Jim Brooks, Jackie Brooks, 79. A policeman walked over and said, "I want you to move." I said, "I'm not moving." Oh, inspiring from a 79-year-old right there. A retired nurse living in Little Borough, what the hell, near one of the fracking sites. Since September, she and her husband, Jim, have been serving food and drink at the Third Energy gates. I'm hoping she's as nice as Jim is. Because I want Jim to have a lovely wife, to be quite honest. We weren't sure how we were going to participate. I couldn't climb onto a truck, and the thought of lying on the ground in a lock-on, no thanks. It came to me one day that serving tea would be a good thing to keep people happy. It's changing our lives totally. Well, I'm glad, to be honest. On 9 October, I was kettled by police. The protesters had built a tower to keep an eye on things. Next day, a policeman walked over and said, "I want you to move. This tower might fall down and squash you." I said, "It's not going to fall down. I'm not moving." Famous last words right there. Soon I had 12 to 15 policemen around me. One kept trying to take my arm. I told him to get off. I was brought up to respect the police, but I thought what they were doing was wrong. The protesters are not violent people. When violence did erupt, it came from the police. She seems trustworthy, but I need more than just a word for that, to be honest. Now I think it's government putting them in this position, forcing the police to protect a company that's trying to destroy our countryside, when they should be protecting us. I mean, again, we're back onto this pallet thing, because they're saying this stack of pallets might fall down and injure you. Like, they're trying to protect you there. I don't know how stable the pallets was, but if it was built by protesters, I'm not going to assume it's safe. So you're saying that they're trying to protect this company? Well, the company have a license to frack there. I mean, they haven't been given the green light, but at least explore. So you're actually infringing on their rights to do what they want with that license within the license's contract, obviously. So it's not the police work. Well, it is the police working for the government, but it's the police protecting this company's rights, which you are trying to fringe upon. Whether you think that's morally right or not doesn't matter. We're talking about under law. And don't get me wrong, I know some laws are bloody terrible, but this isn't one that I agree with you on. I don't think it's a bad thing to protect these companies' property rights on this licensed land. Finally, we have Carol Towner, 54. Life will never go back to normal. Well, that's entirely your choice, darling. Sales consultant for an eco-cleaning products company. She moved with her 2 children from Scarborough to Pickering, 4 miles from the Third Energy site, in February 2017. I hadn't really paid attention to fracking until we moved here last year. An anti-fracking flyer came through the door and I thought, this can't possibly be happening. Now my commitment is 110%. I send emails, write letters, ring people up, sign petitions, go to the Third Energy gates and protest. I've put my body on the line, stood in front of trucks, been carted off by police. If you strip it down, my job as a mother is to protect my children, and fracking is a threat to my family's well-being. It's like, I have a good idea of what was on that fracking flyer, and it's entirely propaganda. It doesn't sound like you've done any independent thought or study into it. You've just seen this flyer and gone, oh, holy shit, I have to do something. Which is, if you want to live in blissful ignorance, be my guest. I've always voted Conservative, but now I can't walk in my true blue Conservative shoes ever again. I'd like to wear green ones, but they're not strong enough to get the Tories out. They also don't have a military policy. Like, you vote them in, we lose every war. My world is turned upside down. I need this government out, and I have to vote strategically to make it happen. Oh, you're gonna vote Greens? Life will never go back to normal. Even if fracking is stopped here, which I'm quite confident it will be, lol, I've got to keep going until it's stopped everywhere in the UK. I won't breathe easily until fracking is gone full stop. Is this another one with a midlife crisis? Like, I'm surprised that there aren't a lot of 20-year-olds here, to be honest. I mean, the youngest guy was the top guy, I think, who is actually one of the leaders of the fracking anti-fracker movement here, but the rest of these people just seem like middle-aged people with nothing better to do with their lives, so they feel morally obligated to ban something that is completely regulated in the UK anyway. these people are trying to stop. I'd even argue that these people are trying to stop renewable energy sources from being developed, because I think that's where the money would go that's taxed on this. It'd either go to things to drive down carbon emissions. Well, that includes going into renewable energy sources anyway, because they're all clean. I mean, hell, it should go into nuclear. I'm a big advocate of nuclear, but I don't think that's going to happen. So realistically, it will go into environmentally friendly renewable energy resources, which is fine. It's a smart move, really. I don't really like solar energy, and I really don't like wind farms. But honestly, it's probably the best thing we've got after we run out of oil. But to be honest, we've got so much oil in the world that we'll probably be on oil for another 50 years at least. We're not as near to the end of oil as we think we are. But this pretty much sums it up for this video. Just these people don't have anything better to do with their lives, so they're doing what they feel morally obligated to do. It's fine, I just think they're a bit mental. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and goodbye.